I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. As you can tell by the title of today's episode, I'm going to discuss the idea of morality and if it is indeed objective or if it's subjective, and why do we even bother ourselves with these notions of objectivity or subjectivity. To get into it, we have a strange disposition or preoccupation, I should say, with whether or not morality is objective or subjective. And we won't go into the definitions of those here because most of you already know the difference between objective and subjective, objective and subjective. But my concern on this is why is it so important to us to make that distinction? Morality is a name given to a set of behaviors that pertain to ethics and being virtuous or being non-virtuous and unethical. For some reason, we are, not everybody, but a lot of people are, usually the religious-minded people, are obsessed with making sure that we define morality as objective and that there is an objective core to everything that we regard as moral or morally correct. So my question is, what is it about morality that makes it less valuable if it's subjective and more valuable if it's objective? Are the behaviors not identical either way, no matter what label you slap on it? For example, we can all agree that unaliving somebody is, we do well to avoid doing that to others, harming them or causing suffering or injury is something to be avoided. But we can all sort of agree on that, and we can also agree that there are some exceptions to that. And with every moral that we can think of, there's always going to be some exceptions. And we know that in probably the Quran and the Bible depict God as engaging in behaviors that we would classify as immoral at face value. But of course, the explanation and excuse given is, well, we don't know the whole picture, so maybe unaliving an entire nation of people is actually a good thing. I don't buy those arguments. I don't buy those explanations. I don't think there's any excuse for making somebody suffer in that way when you have the power to alleviate that suffering, even if it's for some higher cause or to teach us all lessons or to teach us humility. Whatever the lessons are, could they not be taught without all the suffering? But we won't get into those discussions here because that could be for a different episode. But my take on it, really, ultimately, if we want to get to the core of human behavior, we have to look at humans as a hominid, as an animal, rather, as a mammal. There are certain behaviors at the core of all life in general, actually, from plant life to bacterial life to viruses to, viruses might not be alive, we don't know, to all mammals like dogs, cats, chimpanzees, people. And that is the thing that drives all of our behaviors, good or bad, is the notion or the drive to survive until the age of reproduction and to reproduce so that your genetic material goes on to the next generation. That is the whole of it. And it gets kind of interesting when you're dealing with social animals like wolves or chimpanzees in humans, of course, where we have this dopamine reward system that when we act in ways that are aligned with our survival, that are aligned with our ability to survive long enough to reproduce, we get a dopamine rush. And so if you take that into the domain of being a pack animal, then in order for you to survive to the age of reproduction, you need the protection and help from others in your clan, your tribe, your family, whatever name you want to give your group, your community. So you start to see the emergence of altruistic behaviors, such as caring for the elders of the group, feeding them because of their survival is indicative of your survival. If you have a community that takes care of its elders, then you can be assured that when you get to that age, you won't be left to die on your own. You'll be taken care of to some degree. Notions like helping or sharing the bounty of a successful hunt or a successful day of foraging. You bring all of that back into the community. Everybody participates, and they all survive and benefit from it. Also, the idea of protecting each other from predators or other hostile communities, other groups. That is hugely advantageous to be in a large group yourself. So the survival behaviors start to extend beyond just your own survival, even though that's at the core, but the behaviors start to morph into, by extension, by helping others, you're by extension helping yourself. So ultimately it's selfish at its core. If you want to call it selfish, that's not probably the right word for it because that has negative connotations, but self-preserving, I guess. So that is what is at the core of all morality. Fast forward to when primates started to get larger brains and began to think more abstractly, then we start to dissect these core behaviors and these dopamine-fueled or dopamine-driven responses to, or dopaminergic behaviors. And we start to philosophize, is that the right word? Philosophize about these and create words for different kinds of behaviors. And I think that's when we start to overcomplicate things and when the core behaviors start off as super, super simple. So instead of looking at morality as good and evil or objective and subjective, I tend to look at human behavior in terms of beneficial or detrimental. Beneficial or detrimental to what? As, of course, it would be beneficial or detrimental to the end goal of surviving long enough to reproduce. So, in looking at human behavior as beneficial versus detrimental, you sort of strip it from its connotations and you strip it from all the philosophical syllogizing and semantics and just language in general, and you reveal it for the truth of it. It's the behavior is either a detriment to your survival or a benefit to your survival. And I think that's a much simpler way to look at it, and we don't need to confuse or complicate it with religiosity or with being overly concerned about if it's objective or subjective. I suppose one way we can try to come up with something that would be an objective objectively moral notion might be if we're very careful with our language and we say something like one moral might be it is always wrong to harm or end the life of somebody who is situationally innocent. And if we have to add the word situationally, because first of all, none of us are really innocent. I mean, we've all done stuff that we regret doing, or that if we had it to go back and do over again, we wouldn't do. Things we're ashamed of or embarrassed of, whatever. But if you add the phrase situationally innocent, then that means, for example, if, let's say, to paint a picture here, let's say some guy walks into a convenience store to get whatever guys get, energy drinks or something, and then a robber comes in and is intending to rob the place, and he's accidentally startled by this energy drink buyer, and he shoots him. So in that situation, it's obviously wrong that the robber did that, and this is what I mean by situationally innocent. The guy buying the energy drink, in that situation, he was innocent. It doesn't matter that he perhaps at home he's a tyrant. Maybe he steals stuff from work, backstabs people at work. Maybe he's cheated on his spouse. So maybe he's just overall not a good guy. But in the situation where he's in the convenience store, he is situationally innocent. So the robber didn't know any of that backstory. If that was the case, he just wrongly took his life. So we can, if we phrase it carefully, we can probably come up with something that is an objectively moral statement that is true throughout all cultures and everything. But that is, again, all just basically semantics, and I really don't understand what the point of having objective or putting the word objective in front of morality, because morality doesn't become any less valuable if you put the word subjective in front of it. It's still an important part of our society, and we still need to adopt morals and build them into our cultures. So I guess that is more or less what I wanted to discuss today. I don't know if any of you have any additional thoughts on this matter, or if you feel strongly about that we should identify objective morals and why we should do that. Maybe leave a comment below. I guess that's gonna do it for this episode. I'm Charlotte. You are watching The Ugly Atheist. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. And I will see you next week.